another edition of Storytalkies. Today, let's explore the power of personal branding and community in building businesses. And we have with us today Rohit Haldankar. He's a digital first marketer. He is a known face in the industry. He's an educator at heart, as most of you would know. And today he'll be sharing with us his journey of building a community of learners for CDME, Center for Digital Marketing Excellence, an initiative that he built 2 years ago. Welcome, Rohit. Thank you so much for joining Story Talkies. How are you feeling today?
Good morning, Jimmy. In LinkedIn parlance, I should be saying I'm feeling honored and humbled. But yeah, on a more realistic note, I will tell you, I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling very happy, and there's a reason behind this. Okay, so as kids, growing up, we had this big fascination for cricketers. As most kids who grew up in the 90s, right, had in India. And I loved watching their interviews. And whenever I watched an interview of some of my favorite cricketers, in my head, I always had this dream that someday I'd be called for this sort of a discussion, or lack of the term, an interview. So it happened some months ago, the first time, and I was really happy. This makes me very, very happy, and I'm glad to be here, Jimmy.
And it's always better to start the conversation on a happy note. Since you mentioned LinkedIn, I am keen on understanding the journey of building CDME without a dedicated website or a microsite. And you haven't done any paid promotion so far for 12 batches of CDME. How did you do it?
Yes, CDME does not have any social media presence. A CDME does not have a website. And CDME certainly does not do any paid ads anywhere. Yeah, I'll be shocked if you tell me that there is a paid or a promoted ad for CDME anywhere. That is not how we function. But you know what CDME has? It has a purpose. Okay, and that purpose is to educate, empower, and inspire ambitious professionals. Yes, and when you have a purpose and you follow it, right, with all the sincerity you have, and you enjoy doing it, slowly but surely you will find flag bearers for the purpose. Yeah. So we started from batch 1, we are on to batch 12, and we prospered because of word of mouth. Correct. So was there a certain thought? Was there a certain structure? No, there wasn't really a structure. I'll be very, very honest with you. Though we like saying, right, this is what I planned, this is what I thought would happen. I did not. The pandemic had hit. I am an educator at heart, and I've taught at various institutes. I've taught at various B schools, and I said, why not teach on my own? Because hey, we've got the internet, or we have a laptop, and let's go for it. That was one facet. But before that, I took a call to build my I want to build a brand, but build a community on at least one platform. And I chose LinkedIn for it. And I'll tell you where the thought came from. Right? So I've been building brands for a few years. Why aren't you using those lessons to build your own community? And I said, hey, I might succeed or I might fail, but I'm going to enjoy doing it. I'll try it. That experiment did take off. So grew from almost zero followers to closing on 10,000 followers now. So that is decent stuff, I believe. But what is really important is the relevant followers who communicate, interact with me, and we also indulge in banter. Correct. So it was an amalgamation of building a community and purpose. That information eventually led to CDME reaching its 12th batch without a single rupee in ad spends. Now, a fun fact, right? Because I was coming here, I just thought, let me just do a calculation of the revenue. So for all this while, I was under the impression that the revenue of the 12th batch is more than 12 times the revenue of the first batch. But after doing the calculation yesterday, I realized the revenue of the 12th batch is more than 23 times the revenue of batch 1. And without any ads. And that is the power of purpose. That is the power of building a community. That is the power of building in public. So when I did something with CDME, I spoke about it. When something failed, I did talk about it. Yes. And when someone said something nice to me on a private platform like WhatsApp, just requested them, if they could be kind enough to say, the same thing on a public platform. And that really helped me spread.
Now, you said you had a purpose and the community took your purpose forward, right? If a professional is coming to you for an advice, a professional with a similar vision who wants to build a brand, what would you recommend them? Would you ask them to go for a full-fledged website and do paid ads, or would you ask them to focus on personal brand? How important is it for leaders to have a personal brand?
So that's an interesting question, Jimmy. Yeah, and that's one that I get often, and it's a question I do ask myself. In an ideal world, I'd like to have my own brand plus, a website for CDME with a payment gateway. Yes. Social media presence on relevant platform. The word relevant is key. Yes, I want to have that, but I told myself, hey, if I'm going to do social media for my brand, it has to be amazing. Correct? And the next question I ask myself is, do I have the bandwidth? Yes, the mental bandwidth plus the time to invest your efforts in doing that. And the answer towards that was clearly no. I did not have that. Yeah, maybe I could. I had the time, but did I have the mental bandwidth? No, because the pandemic was around. The overall mood in society wasn't great. So I said, okay, instead of utilizing my energy on building a website and a payment gateway and social media, let me focus on my purpose. Let me focus on investing that time in helping my participants with their queries, with their interview preparation, with their CVs, right? And preparing for the initiative. And that paid off. Yeah. So to answer your question, if you are going to have a social media presence for a particular initiative or a company or a business, make sure it is relevant, make sure it is amazing. Yes. Another factor you've got to bear in mind is that it really helps having a personal brand because humans like dealing directly with people, correct? So and if you're a person who's known for integrity, and if you're trusted, people will have more affinity towards the brand as well. Correct. That's how we humans are wired. If at a human level you're narrating the story of your brand, people will be happy to interact and engage with you. Correct. So do both, yes, but definitely have your personal brand. And if you're going to have a social presence, do it really, really well because a half-baked social presence hurts brands. And a lot of brands do not realize that. So yeah, I took that call. Yes, I said I'll only have my presence because I did not have the time, nor do I have the mental bandwidth.
Now, I have to ask this. Branding, personal or corporate, and storytelling are closely connected, right? But is it essential for businesses to focus on storytelling?
Talking about the power of storytelling here, right? And let's not complicate matters whether by asking whether storytelling is essential for business. Yeah, it's just a very simple question you have to ask, right? Do humans love stories? Correct. And yes, we know the answer to that. But if you just look at two of India's biggest obsessions, movies and cricket, sports, yeah, for that matter, cricket predominantly. What are movies all about? Yes, the finest movies you'll remember them for their amazing stories. Correct. For that matter, cricket, Test cricket, okay, 5 days. Right? It's a story that's unfolding. As humans, when we say we get nostalgic when we think of our childhood, we remembering stories from our childhood. So we as humans are wired to love stories, and we love stories that are interesting. Correct? As a brand, you want to be interesting. How do you be interesting? By narrating stories. Okay. Now there are loads and loads of fake stories doing the rounds. And the moment your audience knows that, hey, the story is fake, what it does is it puts a big question, on your integrity. it puts a big question in the minds of your audience. The question is, can I trust this person? Can I trust this brand? Correct? So my point is storytelling is very, very powerful, but tell stories that are simple in nature, that are authentic. Correct? Fake stories do not help. Yes. So simple stories that are authentic and tell them in a fashion that is interesting. Yeah. And storytelling is an art. Okay. It is something that you learn over the years. Now I am a teacher. Yes. And people ask me, hey, are you good at storytelling? I said, I don't know whether I'm good or bad, but I can tell you, I constantly try to be a better storyteller because I'm also a marketer. See, marketing and education, at the heart of it lies storytelling. Brands are all about great stories. Education is about great stories. So when you're seeing business, we are not doing business with robots. We are not doing business with aliens. We are doing business with humans. Tell wonderful stories, tell stories that are interesting, and tell stories that are genuine, and it will help your cause because people like interesting content.
We spoke of community building and we spoke of storytelling. Now, how to grow your personal brand with content? Because a strong personal brand is what helped CDME succeed.
That is a big question, right? What sort of content? I'll say a very simple thing. I'll talk at a very individual level, right? There are content creators. What you want to figure out as a person who's creating content is what is your strength? Yes. Are you really great at writing? Yeah. I'm just talking about the format now. Okay, we'll get into what the intricacies later. But are you happy of putting out your own pictures or other pictures? Are you really good at writing, right? Or are you comfortable in front of video, of a camera rather? And you got to figure out or do you want to write, really big essays, or are you someone who wants to convey a lot in a single sentence? So there's a lot that can be done. But for an individual, I suggest don't try to do anything and everything just because you got so many options. I realized pretty early that, hey, the form that I'm really comfortable with is writing, and writing in a fashion that is concise. Yeah. So I tried my hand at video. I did not enjoy it, and that came across in the content. Correct. And if you are not enjoying it, people who will consume it will also not enjoy it. Yes, I enjoyed writing and it showed. Okay. And so you choose what is fine. Correct. And if you realize you're good at multiple things, ask yourself, hey, are these multiple things going to make sense on a particular social media, platform? So choose your content accordingly and choose your content in a fashion that suits a particular social media platform. And over a period of time, you have to observe how the algorithm reacts to your content. You have to observe how your follower base reacts to that content. Yes. And make tweaks accordingly. But always remember, be genuine in whatever you're doing. Do not put out fake stuff because people now can see through the farce. Yes, if you're genuine, it helps. So all in all, just to summarize, okay, as an individual, figure out what content you're good at. Yes. After that, figure out which of those content formats can be used. Then make sure the content is genuine. This is at an individual level because the constraints are much larger. I do not have a video team. I do not have a group of writers. But for brands, it's a little easier because, hey, there are more resources at their disposal. And they again have to ask themselves which platform is relevant to them, which content format is relevant over there, and what is their eventual objective? What do they want to attain with that content? And keep learning. So there is no framework that says this is set in stone. It's all about trying your best, adapting, and evolving. And as someone whose work revolves around content, I can tell you, I do not have that magic potion for content. And we have goofed up multiple times. But the good content marketers, the good social media marketers, good digital marketers are the ones who do not repeat the mistakes, or at least try not to repeat the mistakes. Yeah. So these are my 2 cents from my experience in growing a personal brand with content and also working with multiple other brands with content.
I really like the way you put it. First, identify your craft, nurture it, and grow. But there's a bigger challenge that individuals and brands face. There are many social media platforms available. And when starting off, we create an account everywhere. And we also have this FOMO. If you're not present on one particular platform, what if we miss out on something that the platform has to offer? How do you tackle it?
I'll just take this question from a brand perspective first, and then I'll tell you how I chose it for my personal brand. But overall, the typical commercial brand, what I usually tell my students or my colleagues in my company or industry, it's a very simple thing, right? Just because there are 10 social media platforms that are popular in India does not mean you have to be available on all 10 social media platforms. Figure out which social media platforms are relevant to your brand's objectives. Okay. And then maybe you'll realize, hey, out of 10, only 4 are relevant. And you figure out the relevance by understanding whether your audience is on those platforms, right? So if you are selling a Rolex, yes, maybe being on a platform, say maybe, I still don't have the data to corroborate that, maybe being on a platform, say like ShareChat, which targets, which is only in vernacular and targets not the premium lot, yeah, it doesn't make sense. But if you are an FMCG player, which is selling sachets at 1 rupee, maybe ShareChat makes sense. So there is no hard and fast rule. You have to figure out what is relevant to your brand's objectives and whether your audience is there. Once you do that, you have a shortlist, right, of which platforms are relevant to you. The next question you ask yourself as a brand is this: do I have the resources to be amazing on all those 4 platforms? And I ask this a very, very important question, because if you're on 4 platforms and you're average or below average on those 4 platforms, you are doing something that is counterproductive. It doesn't help your brand, it hurts your brand. Yes, I'm a strong believer that being amazing on just 1 platform is way better than being mediocre on 4 platforms. Correct? In an ideal world, if your brand's audience is on 4 platforms, go for it, but do a fabulous job. Ensure you have the expertise. Yeah, you have the group set of people who know how to manage that. You can create content over there. And when people write to you on those platforms, you acknowledge them. Do not be apathetic and help them out. So this is my suggestion for brands. At my level, see, again, as an individual, the resources are limited, correct? I do have time, to invest time on YouTube, on Instagram, on Twitter, on LinkedIn. But I said, do I want to invest that much time on all 4 platforms? Because time also means, using my energy. For me, time is energy, correct? And if I want to do something, I'll do it really well. I said, no, okay, let me not go everywhere, because I know I'm capable of it, but will I enjoy being a YouTuber? I don't think I will at this point in time. Will I enjoy putting up short videos on Instagram? No. So over the years, right, the platforms that have really fascinated me have been Twitter, yeah, and Facebook. But Facebook was only to write updates, written stuff, yeah, and Twitter again, because if you write well, you can attract people, and some of the tweets have been picked up by various publications and newspapers, yeah. So I realized my strength lies, right, lies in writing. And LinkedIn was one platform where I realized, and I know a lot of people might not like what I'm going to say over here. I think it's a platform where everyone wants to be very politically correct. I like being authentic. So LinkedIn has an opportunity for me, yes. And LinkedIn, at least 2 years ago, when I started off, less than 2 years ago on LinkedIn, there used to be lots of these long posts and essays. And I said, no, I will not do that. Okay. I will use LinkedIn as my Twitter for business. Yeah. So I think I stood out of that clutter because a lot of people told me you're being brutally honest on LinkedIn. Your content is very short, so it's easier to read. And I made it a point to reply to every comment I got. Obviously, not the spammy ones, that talk absolute bonkers stuff. And anyone who writes to me, to my DM, especially the student community or job seekers, I have made it a point to acknowledge. If I have missed one, it has been, because I have actually missed it. If I read a message from a student or a job seeker. Yes, when someone sends me a really bland pitch message, yes, I try to ignore as much as I can. But yeah, that's what I realized, man. That's where I could actually add value to job seekers and fellow professionals and have fun while doing it. Because there was a time for around a month, I said I'll talk only about digital marketing and business and in a very straightforward fashion, and I got bored. I almost felt like leaving them. This is not me. I said, let me have fun. Okay. So the heart of social media also is a lot of fun. A lot of brands and people do not realize it. Yes, because we as humans are wired to be attracted towards stuff that is interesting and entertaining. A lot of brands, especially B2B brands, have forgotten that. A lot of individuals on LinkedIn have forgotten that.
Now, this is my last question, and this is for all the marketers out there. In one of your LinkedIn posts earlier this year, you've highlighted common sense as the key success criteria for marketers. But is that enough? If not, what are the other success measures or success criteria that marketers should focus in 2022?
I'm glad you remember my post, because I think it was a couple of weeks ago that I posted it. So yeah, that's recall value. I suddenly feel good. There's an ego boost here. I think on a lighter note, but there's so much. People are complicating things in the realm of business. Yes, people are complicating things, especially in the realm of digital marketing. I do not feel the need to complicate matters. Okay, for that matter, a lot of if you go to a B school, half the time you're just being fed jargon. Yes, and that seeps to the world of business. And a lot of people, right, they trying to sound intelligent by using that mask of jargon. So in 2022, marketers need to have common sense. And the guy who put the word common in common sense is an evil genius, because there is nothing common about common sense. Yes, you need to be curious. When I say curious, you have to keep asking questions. One fine day, I just sat down and I tried to make sense, right, of what am I getting paid for, correct? What am I getting paid for on my day job? And I said, see, when I started off as a coder, correct, in an IT company, I got paid to write code, which developed software systems for global clients, yes. But right now, as a marketer, I'm getting paid to ask questions, of my TG, to ask questions of the behavior, to ask questions of my brand, to ask questions of the product lines that we have, to ask questions about the communication, about the positioning, about how this will eventually help the brand meet its objectives. And one of the objectives, a very, very important one, is to drive revenues. So my job as a marketer, not just as a marketer, as a business professional, is to ask questions. So common sense, curiosity, and the third one is empathy. Now, empathy sounds very, very beautiful when you write long posts about it on LinkedIn. But the reality in the corporate world is very, very different. And empathy is not only essential when you're dealing with the market, because obviously, as a marketer, you need to understand the consumer behavior. And for that, you've got to put yourself in their shoes. But empathy is also very, very important as professionals, okay? Because it helps you connect with your team, with your agency partners, okay? There are other business partners at a human level. And what this might sound a little off to a lot of the typical sharks in business, yes, but being kind and being good is immensely good for business. It is immensely good. If someone asked me, how did you reach from batch 1 to batch 12 and the revenue of batch 12 is 23 times, what is that secret sauce? I say purpose. That purpose had an ally in kindness, okay, had an ally in this genuine need to help people. And then they became flag bearers. So that certainly helps. And empathy can't be lip service. So all in all, common sense, yeah, curiosity and empathy. It is not just good for you as a marketer, it's good for you in general, in life and in business on the whole.
And I hope as marketers, we all approach businesses with common sense, curiosity, and empathy, and not just this year, but throughout. Thank you so much, Rohit. This was indeed an exciting session. You've given us helpful insights on how to build and nurture a community.
Thanks so much, Jimmy. I really enjoyed this conversation. And as you have sensed, by now it was absolutely, I would say, unstructured for the lack of a better term and unpadded. I spoke from my heart and I tried to be brutally honest because I believe we need more people who are brutally honest to bring about those little changes, at the workplace and in society in general. Yeah. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day ahead.
And with that, we conclude this edition of Story Talkies. See you next time with another guest and another conversation that matter. Stay safe and stay happy.